Do you ever think what would happen if you got reincarnated into a world full of waifus? Not badass demon slayers, not magic swords, not some overpowered cheat skill. Nah, just pure uncut rom-com energy. Girls tripping over a guy, and the guy's too dumb to confess, and enough awkward blushes to make you want to slam your head into a wall. Sounds cute? Nah, it's basically torture porn with extra melons. Enter Hisamura, an otaku so down bad he'd sell his left nut just to sniff the same air as his favorite silver-haired side heroine. While normal dudes chase real ass, this guy's out here worshipping manga stickers like they're holy relics. But then destiny shows up with headlights. Bam! Screech, and yup, Truck Kun strikes again. Instead of going to heaven, my boy gets yeeted into his favorite rom-com manga. No harem cheat codes, no magic, just blue balls and emotional edging in 4K. Now his dream girl is finally in front of him, and you'd think it's clapping time. But nah, every confession turns into cringe theater, every scene is sugar-coated to the point of diabetes, and the tension? This manga is called Since I've Entered the World of Romantic Comedy. The story began with the protagonist. Hisamura was returning from work and had been thanked by the person at the store. He walked quickly, thinking about how long he had waited for a certain girl. He had developed a crush on her. She was short, with silver hair and upturned eyes that gave off a slightly cold aura, yet she genuinely cared about others. As he walked, he noticed stickers of Sei, a character from Ojojama, the hottest rom-com manga at the moment. He recalled that the story began with the main character, Yuichi, falling in love with the heroine, Shiho, after meeting her in high school. Alongside Shiho were many girls, one of whom was Sei, Hisamura's favorite, who was a close friend of the heroine and commonly known as the losing heroine. He reflected that most people fell in love with the main heroine to support her, eagerly watching to see who would ultimately win her affection. Hisamura felt happy as he looked at the stickers of Sei and reminded himself not to act like a pervert. He was grateful that in the enemy adaptation, Sei had gained many more admirers, meaning he had to work harder to earn money. Suddenly, he realized a bus was about to hit him. He was confused, thinking he was on the sidewalk and wondering if the driver had fallen asleep. He did not want to die, as he was just a high school student with many aspirations for the future. After some time, he woke up feeling a heavy pressure in his head. He looked around, uncertain if he was at his school, but the building and the uniform he saw were unfamiliar. He tried to calm himself, thinking the confusion might be due to a coma from his injury. Then he heard the voice of a girl agreeing with Sei, mentioning that Shiho was always hesitant about something. Hisamura was shocked to recognize the voice from the drama he had been watching. He looked through the window of the room to see if it was Shiho and Sei from the drama. From what he observed, a girl was asking Sei if Yuichi was on side of Kaori, worried that she might interfere with the two of them. Sei replied that it was not about whether the girl should go to Kaori, but that Shiho's feelings were what truly mattered. Hisamura was thrilled to witness all of this with his own eyes. He then heard Sei say that Shiho loved Shige, so the girl should work harder to ensure that Shiho could follow her heart. Sei continued praising the girl, and after a while, the girl left. Hisamura hid nearby, listening. He overheard Sei wishing that Shiho would give her all, with Sei supporting her as well. He recalled that this was his favorite scene from the drama, the one that had made him fall in love with Sei. He remembered why she had decided to be their wing woman, helping Shiho and Shige be together. Sei had suppressed her own feelings for the sake of her friends, showing her sincerity and selflessness, which had drawn him to the drama. Suddenly, Hisamura made a small noise and fell, prompting Sei to wonder who was there. She came out and found it was Hisamura, and questioned whether he had overheard the conversation. Hisamura, though excited to see her, apologized, saying he hadn't intended to listen. Despite this, he was happy when she called his name. He realized that his name did not exist in the original drama, yet the line had somehow slipped out of his mouth. He remembered a character in the story whose name was similar and who had been a friend of Shige, a character who always tried to lighten the mood when Shiho was troubled by his love triangle and acted as a healer. Hisamura felt immense excitement witnessing his favorite scene unfold in real life. He asked Sei if she was okay with the situation and whether Shimada was also in love with Yuichi. Sei assured him that it was perfectly fine. She had already investigated whether Shige should know, and she had no place between them, as they were a match made in heaven. Reflecting on his feelings for Sei and why he loved her, Hisamura directly confessed, asking her to go out with him. There was a brief silence before Sei became flustered, wondering what he meant. He explained that he loved her kindness and that she was beautiful. She blushed, mentioning that he had never called her that before and was confessing so suddenly. Hisamura felt emotional as she acted embarrassed in front of him, realizing that she had seemed like an NPC until now, and that this was his only chance to express his feeling. Without hesitation, Hisamura began complimenting her, explaining why and how he felt about her, praising her investigations and all the effort she put in. What he admired most, however, was her ability to suppress her own feelings for the sake of her friends. She wondered if he was trying to make her angry, even as she blushed at his words. Hisamura told her that he disliked seeing her act that way and that she would not be happy if she continued to do so. She was shocked, saying she did not want to hear such things from him. Hisamura assured her that he would make her happy and would keep his promises. He thought of her as the losing heroine, knowing that, like in the manga, the story was not over. Her love could remain unbroken as long as the two heroines existed, and all he wanted was for her to be happy. She considered his words and, shaking slightly, shouted that if he was truly talking about dating, he would agree, even if it meant he had to sacrifice his life for her. She was stunned by what he was suggesting and wondered if he thought he could intimidate her with such words. As she began to walk away, she tripped, and Hisamura rushed to help her. At that moment, they were extremely close. She thanked him for his help. Hisamura could feel the warmth of her body and did not want the moment to end. He then asked for her answer. She said she was fine and tried to leave, but he insisted, seeking a response to his confession. She tried to delay, wondering if she should reject him, while he replied that he would not let go until he got an answer. She wondered if he could really become her boyfriend, and felt confused, while Hisamura continued pressing her. She finally pushed him back and hurried home, insisting she had to go. Hisamura got up and left the classroom, telling her loudly that he was serious about her and would make her happy. She shouted at him to be quiet, saying she needed time to think before leaving. Despite not receiving an answer, Hisamura felt happy, finding her adorable. He picked up his bag, feeling no regrets, and prepared to go home. Still, he wondered where he should go next, and when he would wake up from what felt like a dream. Sei had been hinting at that confession, and felt that she wasn't suited for the kind of romance portrayed in Shogo's manga, though she was experiencing different feelings. The next day she went to school, where the other girls greeted her with a cheerful, "Good morning." She thought that these girls were unlike most manga heroines, who typically had long hair and looked cute and pretty, like her beautiful friend. Shiho also greeted Sei and mentioned that although she had talked about wine the previous day, it was thanks to her efforts that she had managed to go on a date with Shigi. Sei replied that she hadn't done anything, and that it had all worked out because Shiho had worked so hard. Sei reflected that she had already looked into Shiho's one-sided crush. Initially, she had thought it was because Shigi was rumored to have a childhood friend engaged to him, but further investigation revealed that wasn't true. She had been giving Shiho a gentle push so that she wouldn't back away from her rival in love. The feelings the two of them shared seemed so dazzling to Sei that she couldn't help but feel as if she were reading her own story, and she just wanted to support her best friend's love. Thinking of that, Sei was reminded of Hisamura, and she flushed slightly. Shiho noticed her reaction and wondered if something had happened the previous day because Sei had been unusually slow to reply to her messages online, which was not like her. Shiho suspected that someone might have confessed their feelings to Sei. Sei blushed even more, and Shiho pressed her to explain everything. Eventually, Sei told her everything in the girls' toilet. Shiho was overjoyed and remarked that she had been noticing how much Sei had been talking lately, and now she wondered if Sei was going on a date with Hisamura. However, Sei explained that she hadn't given an answer yet. Shiho was shocked and wondered why, while Sei admitted that she couldn't just go out with Hisamura simply because he had confessed. Shiho then speculated whether Sei liked someone else. Sei reflected that Shige should have been the first person in her thoughts, and she realized that Shiho had developed feelings for him even before she truly knew him. So now she didn't have anyone specific in her mind. Shiho then asked how Sei had felt when Hisamura confessed to her. Sei revealed that she had been really happy and had once thought she wasn't suited for that kind of love. But since Hisamura was not only a comrade who cherished his friends, but had also made such a passionate confession, it had made her blush uncontrollably. She remembered everything vividly and realized it was all because of him. It was nothing like the romances in the manga, and there was no way for her to forget it. Shiho complimented her, saying how cute she was and advised her to just think it over before giving Hisamura an answer. As Shiho was leaving, she expressed how happy she was for Sei to have her own love story and mentioned that she was planning to confess during the date, suggesting they might even have a double date if things went well. Sei realized that hearing about Shige from Shiho no longer hurt her. Perhaps Shiho's feelings for Shige had been unconsciously suppressed due to her presence, and she quietly thought of Shiho as being hasty. Hisamura woke up at home, still unable to shake off the lingering sensation of his dream. As he went downstairs, he realized that, in a way, he had been in the world of his favorite manga. In that dream, he had acted as a character who shared his exact name. And strangely, he had been able to move and act on his own. Naturally, he went back home to eat dinner, which had been incredibly delicious. Despite feeling that entering the manga world would be impossible, everything he experienced had seemed so real. As he got ready, he reflected on the memories he still held as Hisamura and guessed that he might have been fatally struck and transported to that world. He thought about the life he now had to live there, yet he still longed to see his family and friends from his previous world, feeling a deep sense of regret. Then he remembered confessing to Sei the previous day, thinking it had only been a dream. Now, however, everything was different, because he had to live in that world. He began imagining all the possible negative responses Sei might have, which made him extremely worried. Even if he tried to forget what he had done, he realized it would be very awkward when they saw each other at school, and he doubted he would be able to think clearly about what he needed to do. Suddenly, his sister came in and told him that he should hurry, or he might be late for school. He agreed, thinking that there was actually another sub-heroine besides Sei. His little sister Ri, she had prepared a bento for him, and Hisamura thanked her, feeling genuinely glad to have such a cute sister. She was confused by what he was saying. He reflected that in the manga, she had been a Kohai heroine, one of the most popular characters he had been a fan of, but now, with his own memories, he didn't see her merely as a character to admire. She was a sister he cherished. He patted her head, thinking he couldn't help but wish for her happiness, and told her she really was adorable. She found it a bit disgusting and wondered what had gotten into him. After that, she got ready to leave, telling him to stop messing around and that it was time to go. Hisamura asked her not to be mad, and she reassured him that she wasn't. As she left, Hisamura thought she really was so cute, and he realized that his emotions were slowly becoming more attuned to this world. He admitted to himself that he did have some regrets about the previous world, but what mattered more now was his sister Ri, and, above all, facing his confession to Sei sincerely. Hisamura thought that he would never let that confession become a part of his black history. When they reached the school, he parted ways with his sister and went to meet his friend, Yuichi. He greeted him with a good morning and reflected on how close they had been as childhood friends. Yuichi was a tall, popular guy from the basketball club, but he seemed unusually tired that day, which made Hisamura wonder what was wrong. As he looked closer, he felt a chill, as if he had seen a ghost. Just then, Yuichi placed a hand on Hisamura's shoulder, his voice trembling with emotion. He explained that he had a once-in-a-lifetime request and asked Hisamura to help him. Hisamura spoke with Yuichi and learned that Kaori might have discovered the date he had planned with the Fujise. Yuichi was genuinely shocked and remarked that it was all over, warning that Kaori would interfere if this continued. Hisamura wondered if such a plot was possible and recalled that Kaori had indeed found out about the date and interrupted them in the original manga. He asked how she knew, but Yuichi admitted he had no idea. Suddenly, Kaori had texted him asking about the plan for Sunday, right after he had finally gotten the Fujise to agree. Yuichi feared that if he missed this chance, he would never be able to go out with her again. Hisamura, however, was skeptical and asked whether Yuichi was seeking his help. Yuichi immediately began pleading with him to trick Kaori about the date. Hisamura repeatedly denied it, explaining that it was impossible to deceive Kaori and there was no way they could manage it. No matter how many times Yuichi begged, it remained unfeasible. At that moment, a girl appeared, commenting that their conversation seemed quite interesting. Hisamura observed her, thinking that everyone must see her as the real young lady. She asked if she could join them, and Yuichi was shocked to realize it was none other than Kaori, who cheerfully greeted them both with a good morning. Hisamura recalled Kaori's background, how she excelled in sports. Her father was the chairman of a huge company that also ran their school, and how she had been Yuichi's childhood friend. She also reminded him of the many things she had done to get close to him and had even been called a yandere. This made Yuichi feel unattractive and disliked by girls. They both greeted her back, and Hisamura thought that Kaori seemed intent on giving Yuichi a push in his high school love life. Kaori wondered what they had been talking about in such a place. Hisamura replied that it was just boys' talk, something the girls wouldn't hear. The conversation then turned to whether it was possible to see a girl's skirt from below. As this continued, Kaori began flirting with Yuichi, preparing for him to make a move at any moment, and suggested that he could simply tell her next time. Hisamura commented that he was happy for Yuichi, noting that he was destined to become the future chairman of the Tojoin group. This remark angered Yuichi. With a smile, Kaori asked if Yuichi had any plans for Sunday. He mentioned club activities, and she immediately questioned whether it wasn't the volleyball club that would be using the gym. Yuichi was shocked at how she knew. She pressed further, asking if he truly had no plans. Yuichi hesitated but denied it, saying he wanted to take a break for once in a while. Kaori reminded him that he had previously said he needed to practice as much as possible, leaving no time for breaks, and asked when the club was supposed to be closed until night. Yuichi was confused, wondering how she knew all of that. She continued questioning whether he really needed a break. As both seemed unsettled, Kaori remarked that it seemed like Yuichi didn't want to talk to her and said she was leaving. They were left in shock, unsure what to do. Yuichi rushed after her, insisting that the situation was absurd and that they should at least use some common sense. He asked Hisamura for help to call out to her, but Hisamura advised him not to treat it as a once-in-a-lifetime request, thinking Yuichi had no time for that. Yuichi then thought about Sei, realizing that she might find Hisamura repulsive after his confession the previous day. He had initially thought it was a dream, but it was real, and he was serious. The burden felt heavy, and he resolved that he first had to apologize to Sei for the sudden confession and then do his best to get along with her in order to improve her impression of him. Just then, Sei saw Hisamura and turned her face in surprise. Hisamura was shocked by everything and felt that if he were finished, he might begin to wonder if something was wrong with him. He spent a long time thinking about what he should do next, realizing that he was little more than a minor wingman in the main character's love life. In the original story, Hisamura and Sei had acted as partners supporting their best friend's relationship, and there was no way he could have stopped the wealthy young lady's schemes. Yuichi wondered why Hisamura didn't ask someone else for help if he couldn't stop Gaori alone. Hisamura considered this as well, and Yuichi came closer, revealing that Gaori's best friend seemed to know their situation, and that person was also the one Hisamura had been talking to recently, none other than Sei. Hisamura was shocked and began running away, denying it, while Yuichi continued begging him. Hisamura insisted that no one else knew about it. Both were left frustrated, unsure of what to do next. They eventually sat down, and Hisamura worried that if his feelings were revealed during class, Sei might be bothered, and he wouldn't be able to undo his awkward confession. Just then, Sei appeared, curious if they were talking about her. Yuichi mentioned that it had been a great time for her. Hisamura observed her, thinking that if she willingly came to talk, it meant she at least didn't hate him. She blushed and turned away, leaving Hisamura stunned. She asked Yuichi if there was anything she could help with. Yuichi replied that it was something he didn't want anyone else to hear, and it concerned Sunday. Sei seemed to realize this and agreed to stay in the classroom after school. She suddenly blushed, which made Yuichi wonder what was wrong. She explained that the classroom was too crowded and suggested they meet at the school gate instead, recalling what had happened to her there the previous day. Yuichi remarked that she really seemed strange, and Hisamura tried to act as if nothing had happened. He wondered if she had just freaked out when she saw him, or if she remembered his confession from the day before, which still made him happy. Yet he reminded himself not to get carried away, knowing she might feel embarrassed or interpret his confession negatively. Yuichi then apologized to Hisamura, remembering that he had to attend the basketball club meeting after school, and asked Hisamura to explain the situation to say afterward. Hisamura was shocked and denied knowing how awkward the confession had been. After school ended, he was heading toward the gate, feeling completely unsettled as he wondered whether he should actually feel happy about talking to her alone. However, he didn't want to start a conversation amid such awkwardness, so he tried to push those thoughts aside. When he noticed she was waiting for him, he realized he just had to take his chance and approach her to apologize. She greeted him with her usual smile, which he complimented, saying it was beautiful, leaving her noticeably flustered. He apologized for bothering her and asked if she was free. She agreed and turned around, wondering where Yuichi was. He hesitated, struggling to find the words, and she speculated about what he might be thinking, questioning if it meant it was just the two of them. When he confirmed it, she seemed surprised, wondering if this was something Yuichi was supposed to discuss. Hisamura explained that it was about helping Shiho on Sunday and asked if it would be all right to walk while talking. She agreed and suggested going to a nearby cafe so they could talk more comfortably. Hisamura was delighted, and she remarked that it was going to be a long story, so standing there wouldn't be suitable. They both agreed to head to the cafe, leaving Hisamura feeling very grateful to Yuichi. They went to the cafe and got their drinks, and she found herself wondering what Hisamura was staring at. Hisamura, however, wasn't thinking about anything in particular. She questioned herself, worrying if it was a silly thing to be concerned about, and admitted to having a sweet tooth. Hisamura reassured her that it wasn't that at all. Instead, he found her cute. She blushed and thanked him for the compliment while sipping her drink. Hisamura noticed how much she enjoyed sweets. Since she was usually seen as a composed and cool person, he was glad to see this lighter side of her. He asked if she liked the drink, and she was so startled by the sudden question that she choked and spat it out. Hisamura immediately apologized, concerned if she was all right, and she assured him that she was fine. Then she wondered why he addressed her in that particular way. Hisamura explained that it was how he had been thinking of her in his heart as well. She blushed even more at his words, realizing he was flirting with her. Hisamura mentioned that his confession the previous day had been somewhat spontaneous, and he apologized for calling her name so suddenly. She told him it was fine. Hisamura hesitated, unsure if she was truly okay with it, and her embarrassed blush confirmed that she felt it was too intimate for public. She admitted that he could only call her that when they were alone. Surprised but careful to remain calm, Hisamura asked if it would be all right to call her by her surname, wondering if that was her way of accepting his confession. She was startled and stood up, questioning where he got such an idea. He explained that he thought she had implied he could call her by her first name when they were alone. Hearing that, she blushed even harder, overwhelmed by the closeness between them.